Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Board Docs webinar, Track Your Success, Free Your Board to Focus on Strategic Goal Planning. My name is Amanda Finney, and I will be moderating today's webinar. And before we get started, I just have a few quick announcements to go through. This webinar will last 30 minutes, and we ask that you mute your lines to minimize the background noise. We definitely encourage your questions, so please feel free to send your questions into the question and answer box at the bottom of GoToWebinar, and then we will address those questions at the end. And this session will also be recorded and shared, so you can see this after as well and reference it. And today I'm delighted to be joined by Cheryl Dombey, Board Docs e-governance specialist, who's going to take us through the Board Docs strategic goal tracking and show us some really neat features on everything it can do. Welcome, Cheryl.
Well, thank you, Amanda. I'd like to just give you a little bit of history on myself. I worked 30 years in public education. The last 8 years, I was a school board's clerk here in Toledo, Ohio. And we brought Board Docs into our district in about 2009, and it really just changed the way we did business. So having said that, I love Board Docs so much that I came to work for Board Docs. It just really is such a great tool for boards and a great way to organize your documents, do things one time from beginning to end, and just was such a great resource for us. So today we're going to be talking about strategic planning, and I'm going to show you how in Board Docs we can track strategic planning and goals in a district. So what is strategic planning? Well, we all know that it's an organization coming together to define its direction. So you align your mission and vision statements of the organization. And so really what that means to a school district is defining initiatives and goals that move the school district from its current state maybe to a future ideal state. How do we do that? And once that's developed, what are the roles of the board? What are the roles of the administration? And how do we organize that and share that with the community? Well, the board's role in a strategic planning would be the oversight of the plan. They approve the allocations of resources based on the superintendent's recommendations. So these are items that come before the board on a monthly basis for approval. Items such as budgets, personnel, time, facilities. These are all resources that the superintendent and the administration have to organize and get going in that direction of the ideal future state. The Board of Education's role is just to approve those allocations and resources. And then another role for the board would be a system of accountability. So how do we measure? How do we evaluate? How do we report on what the district says they're going to do and what we're actually doing? So how do we measure the progress of the plan? And then, of course, in the role of the board, they want to be transparent to the community. They want the community to be able to go in and see, we set a goal, we said we were going to do this, and how are we doing in the success of this goal? And then, you know, the board's role also is how do we communicate that to the community? And on the administrative side, of course, it's executing the plan. What does success look like? What initiatives need to take place? You know, establishing milestones, timelines, budget. Where is the money coming from to do all these things, you know, to achieve these goals? And then to track the milestones and the progress, report to the board. You know, how do we measure, evaluate those milestones that we've set, and who's responsible for these initiatives? So what's the easiest way to capture all of this and to organize it without learning new technology and new, you know, reports, and how do we organize this from maybe what we're already doing? So with Board Docs, we're a full board management tool. So we take into consideration that boards want and need to track strategic goals and report out on them, establishing trust and transparency to the community. The board's work is the meeting agendas, and this is where it all comes together. So we realize that, and we connect agenda items to reporting tools, and we connect those with the goals. So in Board Docs, and you can see my screen here, we have a feature tab. Everything on the feature tab is what your public comes in to see as a school district. So when your community logs into the board's documents, they'll see your upcoming meetings. They'll see policies that you are working on and highlighting. They'll also see your board's goals. So when you develop your board's goals in Board Docs, in the library, there's different sections here. We'll connect with your strategic goals here. So you can set, as a district, a strategic goal of safety plan for students and staff in all facilities. Well, that's a great goal to have, and that's a great item to start. Let's say we start that in January. What does that look like? So we can start with some staff training. That's a very measurable goal. We can, in Board Docs here, set that goal of staff training for the purpose of the safety plan. We have 3 content areas here. We have a public content. So this is where you would go in and describe your goal, strategic goal for this particular staff training. So you want to provide staff with training on the bullying, maybe classroom management. You're sharing with the community, this is what we would like to do. Now, for your administration, they have a content area here that you might want to set up some matrix, some timelines for success. So when we're setting a goal in January, what does it look like when we're 20% complete? You can set in here that, by April 1st, all school building administration and teachers will have attended workshops on this particular goal. 40% complete, what does that look like? By June, all school building non-teaching staff will have attended these workshops. So you can get the idea here how you can set the milestones for the goal. And these can be available to the public if you wanted to, but more of an administrative resource to go in here, see who's responsible for getting items done. Maybe set the curriculum in here for administrators to go in and see the documents or the plans that are in place for them to use as tools and curriculum. Now, so we have the public content for this particular goal. We have the administrative content where you might want to set up the matrix timelines for success of this goal. But now you have the executive content, and this might be your legal team, your board members, your superintendent. Now we're going to share the times of the year we're going to review and evaluate this particular goal. So in the April meeting, we're going to review the progress and have a progress update on the goal. Hopefully we'll be moving it to 20%. In the June's meeting, you might have a board retreat where you want to evaluate that goal, see how successful it's been, get some feedback on the training or workshops that the teachers and administrators have gone to. And then you can report out to the board at that time. Maybe move that particular performance indicator to 40%, and that would be ideal. Also, in each goal that you set, you can set a release date. So you could work on these goals in the fall leading up to the January setting of the goals. You can, get some items together and not release them until you're ready for the release of that particular goal. You can also put an expire date. So if you want any particular goal to be done by the end of the year or any other time, you can set that goal in here. So now in one place, you can see the strategic goal set for staff training under the strategic plan of safety plan for students and staff in all facilities. And you have all the items in one place for all content areas from the stakeholders of the community, the board members, and the administration. And it's a real cohesive plan and a way to organize your goals and plan for the year. Now, from this place, you can also feature this plan. So if you right click, you can feature this staff training on your feature page. So now when the community comes in here, they can see that staff training is on your board's goals and something that is now 40% complete. Let's go into a different strategic goal that's very measurable. And in that particular safety plan, let's say one of the objectives or task was to employ educational resource officers to buildings. So that's very easy to quantify. That's very easy to measure. So 50% of the goal would be to hire 2 resource officers by June. 100% of reaching this goal would mean that 3 more resource officers would be hired by December. Okay, so at this point, it looks like 2 resource officers were already hired. We're at 50%. So let me go in and show you in a particular meeting how you would attach that goal. So we're going to go in and add an agenda item to an upcoming meeting. We're going to go in and we're going to say we want to, the subject of this agenda item is to hire a resource officer. So, and this might be a human resource led agenda item. It's going to be an action item because the board's going to vote on the hiring of this resource officer. And it can also be tied to other things if it is information, if it's a presentation related to it, if it's a report procedure. In this part, when you're creating this agenda item, you'd go in to manage the goals. Now, here's your goals you created in the library. You can go in and look for that goal that you wanted to connect to, which would be, let's see, to employ an employment of education resource officers. That was one of your goals that we provided. But it also might pertain to another goal, like building a sense of community in each school. So now you can connect 2 goals here and save to that one particular agenda item. Once you do that, you can now go and see here the human resource section. You're hiring the resource officer. These goals are attached. You can now go to that particular goal, and I'm going to hit refresh just to make sure that it's going to refresh on the report. When you do that and go down and look at the strategic goal of the safety plan and employment of a resource officer, now you can see that 2 different times the goal progress shows that hiring of a resource officer happened in July, and of course I put them in the same meeting, so I apologize for that. But any meetings that you would accomplish these goals, now it's an easy reporting tool to see, we said we were going to do this, we are at 100% of the goal, and this is how we did that. If it's an action item and the board had voted, it will also show the results over here. So it would be motion carried, or maybe that agenda item was tabled and put into another meeting. It would show those results of that vote here. If you wanted to, again, feature that particular goal on the feature tab, you can do that. So now the community can come in and look at the reporting of that particular goal. And it's a nice way to connect the work that you're already doing in the agendas. You're already putting those budget resources out there. You might be allocating money that the board's approving. Now you can quickly and easily tie it to the goals that the board has set forth. And so it's an easy way to tie all those, all that information and agenda items together. From that also, let's go back in the strategic goals. As many items as you put on there, now we'll start reporting. So look at, for the whole year, you could have presentations for the board on those particular goals. You could, when you do the evaluations, when you do the reporting at the particular board meetings that you set forth, you can all connect that. So in one place, the community can come in here and see that you wanted to set a goal for safety schools. And now here's all the times that the board has either talked about that, acted on different items, or there might be reports on that particular goal. So if you go in then and say, oh, I'd like to see what this particular one is, it will take you right to the meeting where that happened. And you'll be able to go in and look at that agenda item directly from that report. So it's a nice, really cohesive way to start an agenda item and then end up in a reporting of particular goals to the community, to your board, and to your teachers. Just a real nice, cohesive way to connect the board's goals with the work that you're doing in your agendas. Now, that's a traditional way people use our goal tracking features here, but there are other ways to use that. So if you would consider this as a strategic goal, you're tagging this, basically you're tagging that agenda item to go in a particular file drawer. So when I say that, I look at other file drawers that I might want to create as an HR person. If I want to track all my MOUs or all my teacher hires for the year, I can go in and create a strategic goal. And like I say, I like to call them file drawers of all the teachers that were hired, or if I'm tracking a particular legislation. When I create any agenda item that is specific to that legislation, I can tag that. Now it's a nice, easy reporting tool for me with like items in it. A lot of districts use this for their purchasing bids and contracts for services. So if the board is approving services for the board with an outside contractor, you can create a file cabinet so your purchasing department sees in one area all the particular contracts that were approved throughout the year. So it's a nice way to organize that, and then to see that the board approved it, and then the purchasing department can go on, sign contracts, and get those purchases moving. Another way people use this would be for grant tracking. So if you get a particular grant and you want to track the spending on that grant, of course, that's approved by the board, you can do that. So now you have a file drawer of all the times money was spent on a particular grant. Another way you can do this is superintendents like to use this for their evaluations. So throughout the year, there's particular items that the superintendent might be real proud of and want to talk about in December. Well, the school year moves so fast and the year moves so fast that at the end of the year, it's really hard to go back sometimes and capture all those reports and items that you're real proud of, that you want to take to the board. Well, in your evaluation, well, this is a nice way to capture those things. These can be marked private. So if the superintendent wants to set up an evaluation file drawer and tag those items that he has either presented to the board throughout the year or, particular initiatives that he wants to discuss during the evaluation, he can make this particular goal private and then tag those as the year goes along. And now there's a nice little filing drawer of items that he would like to take to the board for his evaluation, just to show the items that had made him and the board successful. Those are the different ways people use our strategic goal feature in board docs. Amanda, is there any questions?
Yes, we had a question come in from the audience, and they were wanting to know, can board members take notes within here, specifically on goals?
Great, that's a great question. So in the library feature here, when you're in a particular strategic goal, of course, board members and administration have sign-ins to our system. So when you're signed into Board Docs, the system knows who you are. So if you wanted to take a particular annotation on a board's goal or even on an agenda item, you can do that. You can click the annotations feature here, and you can make your own private notes. So you might want to say or note that the Finance Committee will report on this goal monthly. So you might want to just note some of the items that you are aware of in this specific goal, and then you save that and close it. So now when the month is coming and the board meeting is coming and you are reviewing the goals to see, what you're responsible for, what somebody else is responsible for, you can keep your notes in here, and this is based on your sign-on into the system. Nobody else can see this note that you have. So it's a real nice way to not only look at the goals that the board has set, but take your particular private notes and have them handy every time you sign into Board Docs. Anytime you have a meeting, those notes are right there with you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Cheryl. And then another question just came through from the audience. Can you make the goals update automatically instead of changing the number yourself?
Unfortunately not, but a nice way, like I said, to go back and review this is to set that matrix in here. So when it's 20% done, what does that look like? 40% done. So now when the board is reviewing the goals, you can go in when your forms are done, or whatever 20% or 40% shows in here, you can go up and move that indicator yourself based on the milestones that the district has set. And then once you hit 100%, that turns green. Let's make sure we have that on our feature page. And then when you show that, that it's 100%, you can also go in and share that on your Twitter account, on your Facebook page. You can let the community know that we've reached 100% of our goal. And what this will do is it shares the link to this particular goal. So if you go in and share it on your Facebook page, they click on the link, it will take them right into Board Docs and show them the progress of the goal and, of course, the details and summary of the goals. So it's a nice communication tool as well. So not only did we put together a strategic plan, we set the milestones, we completed the goal. Now, how do we communicate that to our stakeholders and to our community to build that trust and to get them back into the work of the board and show them how we're organizing our documents and kind of completing our goals and our strategic plan from beginning to end.
Wonderful, thank you. And that actually brings us to our last question before we wrap up here that was asked. Are goals public or private or both?
Okay, so yes, the question to that is these can be, when you're setting up your strategic goals, they can be public or private. Some boards like to keep them private until, they've reached a certain percentage, and then you can switch it to public, or you can always have it out there public. I know not only, is a particular goal have public content area, but a whole goal can be marked private. Like I explained down here for the superintendent's evaluation, he might just want to have that for himself as a tagging tool to create reports for himself. Then I would suggest that that be private and just held as a little file drawer that administrators want to keep for themselves to look at. A lot of districts do that for particular grievances or, HR items, so that when they go back into negotiations, they have all those items in one place that they really want to address in negotiations, from the previous year or two. So it's a nice organizational tool, but it can be a private thing for administration to collaborate and organize their documents as well that they want to track.
Thank you. And then I think we've got time to take one more question that just came in. In the school, who is usually responsible for populating the data in board docs?
Typically, it is the administrative assistant or the board's clerk or superintendent's administrative assistant, whoever really creates the agendas and has that close communication with the district and the board, that helps them organize their documents and items like that. We like to call them rock stars here at Board Docs, but they are our document publishers. But it can certainly be a superintendent if they manage the agendas, or it could be a treasurer or a board member if that's the way the district is run.
Great, thank you, Cheryl. Well, I know everybody's taken a lot of information away from today. So Cheryl, if you don't mind sharing the contact slide, that way people will know where to follow up. We have Cheryl's email address and then also the Board Docs website. I encourage you to reach out to Cheryl and also visit boarddocs.com. We've got several resources up there on board management solutions and how it can help you save time and money in your district. And thank you all for joining today, and we look forward to working with you soon. Have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.